These are the 10 Nintendo Switch ports that need to happen. With the Nintendo Switch 2 being officially announced, this just brought so many things to the table to the types of games this console can run. It's a little unfortunate that the console had been severely leaked, but with that being said, we do know much about the console's power. Many people saying that it leans to the power of being akin to a PlayStation 4. And while that might be underpowered for some, there are so many games that can run on Nintendo hardware if it runs like a PlayStation 4. You gotta remember, a lot of modern games that we are currently experiencing on the PlayStation 5 are games that can run on the PlayStation 4. For a variety of different reasons, they wouldn't have released it on multiple platforms anyway. But with that being said, I wanted to go through 10 ports that would need to happen on this console for it to really pop out, to really make the Switch 2 feel like a powerhouse in the gaming space. Or more so, it being able to take advantage of the fact that it is a portable handheld that you can play all of these amazing games on. There are so many games out there from the last generation that now have an opportunity and a second chance at life on Nintendo hardware. Not only that, but there are so many gamers on Nintendo platforms that have never played so many of these games. Before I get into it, let me know in the comment section below any games that you want to see. I know there's so many games from the last generation that I just completely skipped out on that I'm going to be picking up and just waiting for a Switch 2 port. Please let me know in the comment section. And while you're down there, please be sure to hit that like button. It helps out the video big time. But without further ado, these are going to be the 10 ports that I want to see on the Nintendo Switch 2. For starters, I would love to see all of the modern Final Fantasies make their way to the Switch 2. These include the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth, and Final Fantasy XVI. Square Enix is currently making a push to bring a lot of their games to multi-platforms, so this just seems like a no-brainer to bring these big Final Fantasy games onto this new hardware, especially since these new Final Fantasy games are so flashy and explosive. It could really show the power of the hardware. Plus, it would set the tone of what kind of games can actually run on this thing. Not only that, but Final Fantasy characters have been in Super Smash Bros. Having Cloud and Sephiroth being frontrunners in one of your biggest games, but not having their game run on the Nintendo Switch, we do have the original Final Fantasy VII on the Switch, but seeing the remake make the jump on the Switch 2 would be awesome. A lot of the Final Fantasy titles that we have seen on the Nintendo Switch have been just the smaller games, ones that are graphically able to run on this platform. But now I think it's finally time, if the Switch 2 actually does have the power of the PlayStation 4. Both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth are massive titles, and I think it would be awesome for Nintendo fans to finally get their hands on this game. Not only that, but Final Fantasy XVI is such a huge game and brand spanking new. There's so many of these Final Fantasy games that just really need these ports. I would love to see it. Apparently, there's a lot of leaks out there saying that this would be a thing that's going to happen in the future, so hopefully these are true, but fingers crossed. If they port over Elden Ring to the Nintendo Switch 2, this might be a danger to my health. When Elden Ring first came out, it was a game that I was passively playing. One that I picked up thinking I was just going to get into for a little bit. Little did I know that it was going to grab me and pull me into the game and release me only when it felt like it. I could go there for 10 to 20 to 30 hours and just feel nothing happen at all in terms of the passage of time because I was so into the game itself. All of my free thoughts and all of my free thinking went into Elden Ring when I was playing. So the ability to be able to play this game in bed in handheld, I may never leave. I may just bed rot right then and there. Considering this game does run on the PlayStation 4, I feel like this isn't going to be an issue in terms of power, and it would really showcase the power of the Nintendo Switch 2 if they could get this running. Also, a game like this offers so much in terms of how you can play it. Considering I already beat Elden Ring on my console on the PlayStation 5, wanting to go back and just go through the game in an entirely different build is already sounding super comfortable to me. Plus, a game like this where you're able to put 100 hours into without even blinking an eye is very adult friendly to be able to bring this wherever you want. Elden Ring on the go sounds awesome. I know this is probably on Steam Deck, but bring it to Nintendo too, please. The Halo Master Chief Collection seems like a no-brainer, considering Microsoft and Nintendo's are super close buddies now, with the inclusion of Banjo-Kazooie and Steve being in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is a good collection to introduce the people to Master Chief, considering the Halo games are not on the Nintendo platforms at all. It's the first 4 games of the Halo series, Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4, but if they're gonna do this, then these games need to have full-blown multiplayer support. I want to be able to connect with my friends without having any issues at all. I think it would be really cool if on the Nintendo Switch 2 they allowed you to connect locally with other players. That way you have your own dedicated screen so you're able to not take up any screen real estate. Split screen is also just very important as part of that experience, and I hope they don't compromise on that. Nintendo fans have not really even met Master Chief yet, but know so much about him just because of his wants and needs in Super Smash Bros. Hopefully a full-blown collection can remedy that. So for this one, I'm going to add both Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, mainly because a big open world game like this would be so cool to see on this. In the context of Grand Theft Auto 5, the game is so old it could definitely run this. Considering the original ran back on the PlayStation 3 and there have been ports on the PlayStation 4 and basically on everything out there, this might be the only time I am okay double dipping on Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, they got the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Collection running on the original, and through a lot of patches and such, it was able to run pretty successfully. And I feel like Grand Theft Auto 6 might be a little bit too powerful to run on the Switch 2, so I feel like running Grand Theft Auto 5 and just adding the story mode would be a good way to go. And I more so emphasize the story mode since Grand Theft Auto Online is a lot. I'm not sure how that online infrastructure is going to work with the Switch 2, but if they released just say Grand Theft Auto 5 with just the story mode intact, I think a lot of people would definitely be into that. Especially a lot of Nintendo fans that might have missed the boat on Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. In the case of Red Dead Redemption, that's considered one of the greatest fiction games of all time. And that's a huge deal, and it sold millions of copies. Bringing over these games to the Nintendo Switch 2 just seems like easy money for Rockstar. I really hope they do it if they can get them to run. Like I said, I don't see them really having problems running on this hardware, hopefully. Still, catering to this massive popular open world game and catering to a brand new demographic seems like the right thing to do. So for Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Nintendo is in desperate need of some competitive shooters. I mean, Splatoon is fine, but that's not gonna do it for everyone. No one wants to squid bag or deal with the ink or anything. Sometimes people just want a traditional hand-in-the-gun shooter, and there is no more traditional than the Call of Duty series. I did read somewhere that Nintendo and the Call of Duty franchise are like teaming up to make sure that they're able to consistently release games, and hopefully the Switch 2 has the online infrastructure to handle a game like this. But the controllers on the Nintendo Switch are already fantastic, and they work so well for shooters. The fact that we didn't get like a dedicated Nintendo Switch Call of Duty game this entire time is pretty crazy. I mean, that online is okay, it's not the best in the world, but could definitely get a Call of Duty running. Plus, this opens up a new bag of worms for Nintendo and their shooting game demographic. Sure, we have a handful of titles like Doom Eternal and Doom, but for the most part, Nintendo still remains pretty squeaky clean in their first-person shooter games. Plus, these games sell millions of copies. A port of Black Ops 6 I think would go a long way. By the way, I had Black Ops back in the day on my Wii U, and I was playing online on that, and it ran super good, and I loved it. I really had no issues in terms of connection or anything. In fact, the gameplay skill was so limited in that I was kind of clearing out lobbies after lobbies. It was the best. It wasn't as sweaty as the PlayStation or Xbox lobbies. Now, every single game that has a cloud port on the Nintendo Switch should definitely get a full version on the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm going to be pointing out the most notable ones because I still can't believe some of them are even on this list. One of them being Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Control, Dying Light 2, Hitman 3, the entire Kingdom Hearts series, which by the way, this one drives me crazy because the Kingdom Hearts games are able to properly run on the Nintendo Switch because they were PS2 games. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Those need native ports as well. Guardians of the Galaxy, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village. Please, all of these games deserve to have full versions. I think in general, the entire gaming space should step away as far from cloud gaming as possible. It's a fun thing that works in concept, but a lot of places don't really have the internet or the infrastructure for something like that. So I think finally bringing over these cloud games and making them into full games is something that can actually get people interested in a lot of these titles. Games like Kingdom Hearts and Hitman 3 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey are not small-time games. Heck, there's so many popular and new Resident Evil titles that are just stuck in the cloud versions. Make them all full versions, please. That would be wonderful. Now, I'm surprised Hi-Fi Rush isn't already on the Nintendo Switch. I feel like this is a no-brainer for the Nintendo Switch 2. This is very much an Xbox property that matches the colorfulness of Nintendo. And then the game got brought back from the dead and is getting a sequel later down the line. And this is one of those games that I've actually never played and I've always wanted to. I know a lot of people have actually been recommending me to play Hi-Fi Rush because I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, and a lot of people point out the similarities between the two. But I think this is one of those games that I'm going to be waiting for a Switch 2 port. I feel fairly confident that that's going to happen because I feel like both Microsoft and, the developers behind that don't want to leave the Switch 2 on the table. That seems like an excellent port for a demographic that wants a game like this. Something colorful and fun and action-y with a protagonist that looks like he would belong right on the Nintendo Switch 2. Hopefully they do it. I feel like this one is a no-brainer though. Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8. The Switch 2 is in desperate need of some competitive fighting games. Of course, this one is all leaning on Nintendo's servers and if they're able to be improved on this time, because the Nintendo Switch Online servers definitely left a lot to be desired. You would go through games and have lag, even potentially disconnecting if it was really that bad. But the possibility of having a mobile game setup for the Nintendo Switch 2 and your fighting game sounds like a dream come true, especially in the sense of a competitive game where you're lugging around big TVs and entire consoles to get you to play. I know people bring their PCs and such and maybe their laptops, but imagine having a Nintendo Switch 2 version of Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 that can play online and run the game properly in a solid frame rate. That sounds like it would be awesome, especially for packing. Those competitive players would like to be able to take their console wherever they want to, and the Switch 2 could be perfect for that. I'm hoping they do this because that's another demographic that I feel like Nintendo really needs to step their game up on. Fighting games are just sitting there and there's such a social aspect of it. I feel like Nintendo is missing out, and that can be easily fixed with the Switch 2 port. Then, of course, there are the Wii U stragglers. I mean those Wii U games that are basically stuck on the Wii U. Many of the Wii U's most popular games have been ported over and have sold millions of copies, even outselling their original versions of the game. But of course, the ones that I want the most are obviously Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. These were made for the Wii U and are HD versions of the GameCube Zeldas, and they are some of the best versions of the games with improved content and visuals. Not only that, but there's Yoshi's Woolly World, which is a excellent 2D platformer. If you've never picked it up, that's definitely stuck on there and it needs to be pulled out, please. It's one of the best 2D platformers out there. We saw that Xenoblade Chronicles X is getting a port for the Switch. Hopefully the Switch 2 can continue these ports. I think in a best case scenario situation, some of these ports can be used to fill in some of Nintendo's library down the line, because I imagine they can't have hitters all around every month. Sure, we'll get the new 3D Mario and the new Zelda or whatever, but they need to have something older for us to kick back with. I'm hoping that they end up doing that with the Wii U stragglers. And last but not least, Cyberpunk 2077. A big reason for this is not even because this is a game that I particularly want, but rather because The Witcher 3 is considered to be one of the greatest ports on the Nintendo Switch. The Witcher 3 is one of the biggest games out there, one of the most popular games out there, and has this huge open world with like a bajillion things to do. And they're able to get it run on the Nintendo Switch with little to no compromise on it. It's honestly really impressive. I think Cyberpunk 2077 would be a perfect moment for this and kind of go full circle. When the game first released, it was essentially a glitchy mess on PlayStation 4. A lot of people saying that being the worst version of the game. I'm imagining if they were able to release this game on the Nintendo Switch 2, they would get a second chance with similar hardware, hopefully redeeming themselves in how they can handle running the game on this type of system. Plus, the game has received so much work and many patches since then that the game almost feels completely different than when it first released. It's praised so much as a completely different experience. I think having that kind of experience on the Switch 2 would be really, really cool. And I could actually finish my own gameplay of it because I kind of went halfway through and I fell off, so yeah, a Switch 2 port would be great for me to jump back in. But yes, these are the 10 Switch 2 ports that I would love to see happen. There's so many opportunities out there for older games to get a second chance, and this is another chance for me to go back and play games that I have already played before but in a new format. I cannot emphasize how important the handheld experience is on the Nintendo Switch. Being able to bring your console and play basically anything you want on the road, it has really helped me be able to find time to play video games as I've gotten older. So I'm hoping more of these games can make the leap. Truly, only time will tell, but it looks like we won't be having to wait for too long. Still, this is what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and stay awesome.